Kia ora, g'day, welcome back here with part 8 of my reaction. It's been a long time coming with regards to Chris Vansant on the Shawn Ryan Show. So it's been a while since I've done these reactions, jumping back on it. Like I said, I've got a large list of things to do. This is one of many, so let's jump back in.
And those things happen, but yeah, I think they dialed in the type of person that has the aptitude to succeed, and they've capitalized on that ever since its inception.
Okay, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So you graduate OCC.
For those that might just be catching up, or if you haven't seen the other ones, that part Shawn had asked or spoken about how surprising, I guess it was to him, in terms of the pull and the makeup of those in the Delta Force and how they pull from anywhere and everywhere. So much like the SAS, you can come from Army, Navy, Air Force, civilian street, or you can apply and you go through the processes and the diversity that comes from that, the different perspectives and experiences that come from that. And I think Chris spoke earlier in this, one of the earlier parts, about how collectively it made them even more effective. So yeah, there's a lot of pros to it. Some people might find cons to it and whatever, but my experience from, not from a Delta Force perspective, but from the SAS perspective, and how it sounds very similar, and the fact that the Delta Force is modelled on the UK 22 SAS unit anyway, is no surprise that they'll look to pull and grab people from anywhere, from all walks of life, if they can meet the requirements, etc.
See,
Yep.
Who determines what squadron you're going to?
Good question. It's a bit of a draft. I think they look at all your performance metrics. I've never been a part of it, so I've never been on that side of it. But the way I've always understood it is it's, whatever the pecking order is, whoever has first choice, and I think it rotates. Usually you're going to take the top performer in the class.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy that's outshot everybody, that's out this or out PT or whatever. There's usually a couple of guys that are up to the top in everything, a couple of guys that are all the way down to the bottom in everything, and then the rest of us are somewhere in between. And I think they just go through and pick, and then think about personalities and how the instructors describe you, and figure out where you'd be the best fit.
Damn it.
That's cool. I don't know. Like, it's interesting hearing Chris say, with his experience and time in Delta Force, that he hasn't been on that side of things and doesn't know for sure. He says he assumes it's a bit of a draft. I've been asked that. How do you know which squadron? How do they select you? Is it a draft type situation? I don't know either how they selected us to go to the squadrons that we went to. What I do know is that my cohort from my cycle in Australia got split amongst the 3 squadrons, and I feel like a large chunk of us, a decent chunk of us, went to one squadron. Probably, I want to say more than a third, or more than 50%, maybe even. But yeah, it'd be interesting to be a part of those conversations if that does happen, in terms of pecking order or talking about candidates or how people have performed, personalities, and what the fit might be, where they're, or what insertion they've done, 3-4 vehicle mounted or water, and just, yeah, it would be interesting. I'd like to know. I don't know. I haven't spoken to any of the guys that have been SIs or senior instructors and that sort of thing, to get an understanding of it, I guess, for my own personal take, just because it's never been something that's entered my mind, apart from when people have asked in the past, and I've just said, yeah, listen, I don't know how that worked out. I'm just glad. I think at the end of the day, all of us that have made it through the cycle and received our beret just don't really care where we get posted to within the squadron, as long as we are now an operator within the unit, albeit at the base level, and going to be learning from there with a sharp learning curve in the upwards direction once again.
It's that in depth. So it's like an NFL draft.
Yeah.
Who's scouting?
Oh, wow.
Well, the instructors all come from each of the squadrons.
Okay.
So post.
Yeah, I'd say they'd say the scouters would be the instructors, or at least on cycle training wing, you've got a bunch of directing staff that have, some of them may have bounced around to the other squadrons. Some will come from a specific squadron where they've been the whole time, then there'll be other people from another squadron, other people from another squadron. So, you're going to have, they're going to be the ones, they're going to be the scouts, so to speak, in terms of, I suppose, having any sort of sway or influence or having those conversations with people back in their squadron. Maybe they're saying, oh, you want to grab this guy or you want to grab this guy. That's if it is a draft process. I don't know how the Australian system works or the NZ one.
Team leader time. A good portion of team leaders rotate out into selection and training, and they become OTC instructors. So you have representation from each of the squadrons within the operator training course on the cadre side. And so they all talk among themselves, and they all talk with people back in the squadrons where they came from. And I think collectively they're charged with giving the best evaluation of who would be a good fit where. And then at the end of the day at the board, you go through a board again, and it's the senior non-commissioned officer from each squadron and the commander of each squadron is who's making the call on this guy or that guy based on those recommendations.
When it comes to the culture over there, I've heard different things, working with different people and interviewing different people. From what I've heard, are there squadrons that are, it seems like background plays a little bit more of a role when you get into the unit. And where I'm going with this is from what I've heard, there's a squadron that is very SF heavy, a squadron that's very Ranger heavy, and a squadron that's very mixed bag of nuts heavy. And that's all I've heard. I don't know everything, but
yeah,
is there any truth to that?
I mean, I've heard that too.
It's an interesting take. Obviously, I've never heard much about Delta, which I've said in other reactions, I think is really cool especially how they keep a lot of the selection and stuff in-house. Like bugger all is known about it. You don't see anybody from Delta coming out talking about their selection, Big Phil Campion's spoken about the UKSF selection and given a really good high-level overview. I've spoken about my take during my time on the New Zealand and the Australian selection. And there's documentaries out on the New Zealand and the Australian SAS selection. I don't know if there's a documentary out about the UK SF selection as a whole. I definitely have not seen any documentaries about the Delta Force selection. So, that part, maintaining that and keeping that as private as they do, Delta Force that is, I think that's pretty awesome. What Shawn was talking about in terms of the different squadrons and the different makeups, I can't say that I ever heard of that from an SAS perspective. Like I said, the guys are pulled from everywhere, and you've got a mixed bag. From my take, anyway, one squadron seemed like a mixed bag of people with all sorts of backgrounds. We had a Black Hawk helicopter pilot in our squadron. I think we might have even had a F-18 fighter jet pilot. He was either in our squadron or in another squadron. Ex-Navy guys, obviously a lot of Army guys. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't recall there being any or many. I don't think there was any that came from Civilian Street in one squadron when I was there anyway. There may have been prior to me, and there may have been post my time there, but I don't recall there being any guys that came straight through the direct entry type route of Civvy Street.
But then over the years, there's guys that I thought were guys that came out of regiment, and turns out they were Green Berets, and vice versa, or guys that I thought were Green Berets and they came from the regular Army, and I had no idea. I think it's pretty much a mixed bag.
Okay.
I think each squadron had different personalities for sure. My personal opinion is during my time, which is small compared to a lot of guys, I was there for 9-10 years or whatever. And
geez, that's not small. That's a long time. That's awesome. But also this guy, I don't know if I've said it on the other reactions on the previous 7 prior to this one. This guy seems very, very level-headed, articulate, intelligent, and it's really easy to listen to him. I don't know how long he's been out of the unit by the time he's on this Shawn Ryan podcast and show, but seems very down to earth. Really, it's cool to see actually.
So I have I only have my own sampling. But like I was a C Squadron guy, and I always felt like C Squadron was a little more laid back, than at the time the other two. Or, you know, there's 3 now, 4 total now, but I felt like they were a little more laid back. I felt like they were a little more cerebral, a little more open to everybody's input plays into the decisions. And then I felt like there were other squadrons that were a little more like Ranger Regiment. Like the older guys have the say, and they were a little more gruff, or maybe a little more competitive. But I mean, we're talking nuanced stuff. Like they're all the same.
All right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I just wanted to hear what he was going to wrap up with there, or I think what he was wrapping up with. I think it's probably because I never spent a lot of time with 2 squadron guys or 3 squadron guys during my time in the regiment. And I wasn't in the regiment as long as what this guy was in Delta Force. You know, that's a long period of time, even though he says it's a small sampling of his time. Maybe he's basing that in comparison to probably other guys that he knows of that have spent 20 plus years in Delta Force, which is blank and phenomenal. But there's always going to be, like you said, those nuance type stuff and nuance type characters within each squadron, within each troop, within each part of the unit, and learning how to, I guess, fit in and find your place within those. I think by and large, when he talks about that, they're all pretty much the same. I think that's the case as well. I think if I had gone to 2 squadron or 3 squadron, it would have just been a case of finding your feet, getting a lay of the land, going in there and just, like Dale has said on the First Among Equals documentary, like shut your mouth and you learn from them. And so going into those environments, keeping an open mind, but shutting your mouth and just taking everything in and being there genuinely to learn and look to apply the things that the senior operators that have got some time under their belt and experience, particularly operations, are sharing and teaching you, is a good place to start. And then you start to find your stride and your rhythm from there, I guess.
I really think, as much as I think I ended up in the right place, there's plenty of examples where guys have bounced between different squadrons and had no issue. You know, you just adapt to the environment that you're in now, and that's part of what makes them great.
He's saying what I was just said earlier. Like, just settle into the environment, you adapt to it, and you'll be fine.
They can do that. But I don't know if the actual numbers are different amongst the squadrons, if that was ever a thing or if that is a thing. But mine, C Squadron, was a mixed bag.
Was it?
Yeah, we had guys from regiment, we had guys from Green Berets, we had guys from regular Army, like you name it. We had guys from other services eventually. I had a couple Marines in my squadron at one point. The Marine Corps is the only weird one because the Marine Corps won't let those guys go. So they're still technically Marines.
No shit.
Yeah. If you come from the Navy.
Wow, that's crazy. Marine Corps, so guys that join Delta Force from Marine Corps are still Marines? They don't let them go? How does that work? I would have thought Delta Force would supersede any hold that the Marine Corps would have on those soldiers and go, yeah, they're not they're not yours anymore. Just like an Air Force guy going into the Army or joining the SAS, which is part of the Army. It's like, yeah, you're not Air Force anymore. You're not Navy anymore. You're in the Army and you're part of the SAS. I would have thought Delta Force would do the same. Like, yeah, you're not a Marine anymore. You are Delta Force, which I think is part of their Army overall in the US. That's weird.
And end up making it through selection, and you make it, they out-process you from the Navy and in-process to the Army and give you an Army specialty skill or whatever, MOS. The Marine Corps holds on to them so they can pull them back at any point.
Interesting.
At least that's what you
holy heck. Wow. Well, he's about to say, at least that sounds like he's about to say that's what they used to do. I think just going back to what he was talking about earlier in terms of going around to any squadron and you'd be fine. I think unless an individual was an absolute retard and or had a bad reputation, I think like anywhere, it's just like either like joining a new team, sport, whether that's a sports team, whether that's a part of the organization, becoming and integrating and being part of a new team takes some time. It may take a little bit longer than others, depending on where you are. You might know, as an example, some guys might have been posted to 2 squadron, but most of their mates and people that they knew either before they got to the regiment or even guys just from their cohort may have gone to 3 squadron or 1 squadron or whatever. And so if they get picked up and moved to one squadron or 3 squadron, wherever the majority of their mates are and or were prior to and during their cycle, so to speak, they'll probably assimilate into that squadron a lot quicker than somebody else who maybe doesn't know as many people, or maybe you don't know anybody. For me, and NZ as an example, not that I got into the squadron there, but I didn't know anybody that was already in the unit in NZ. When I got to Australia, I definitely didn't know anybody that was already in the regiment. I'd heard of the other Kiwi guy that was there, and he was still there when I got over there, but I didn't know him. He was an ex-Kiwi SAS guy who had gone over and done and passed the Australian selection in cycle and got badged over there. And he had already been in the regiment over there for, I guess, a few years before I even got there. So I'd heard of him, but I didn't know him. And I didn't end up in his squadron either. So yeah, just again, like Dale correctly said, on the First Among Equals, shut your mouth and learn from them, and you should be fine.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still that way, but
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think Keith Oakes was the first, Gunny Oakes was the first guy from like Force that I was aware of that came over.
Okay.
And then there's only ever been one dev group guy that did it, and he had a break in service. It wasn't like he left dev and came to the unit. He left dev, got out, did some things. 9/11 happened, and he went, how do I get back in the fight? And then some buddies of his said, you need to go to CAG, man. Like, you need to go to the unit. And it's a long, funny story that you should probably interview him at some point. But he ended up going through and making it, and then ended up in the Army. To date, I think he's the only dev guy that ever has done both.
Wow, that's awesome. Far out, imagine that. Development group guy. It's a naval special warfare guy, development group. He would have done, I assume, I don't know, don't quote me on it, but I assume the pipeline for them, wherever he got into the military, he would have done BUDS, the basic underwater demolition SEALs training. He would have completed that, however long that goes for, I guess 6 months or whatever in total, I think, based on the reactions that I've done to class of 2, 3, 4. Then he would have served in the SEALs teams for a while, then got an opportunity to go to development group or do their selection, which he's then passed. So he's passed SEAL selection, passed development group selection. He's got out for a little bit based on what Chris has just mentioned here, done some things, come back, wanted to get back into the fight, and then done CAG, Delta Force. That's impressive, man. That's awesome. I'm sure somebody has sent me a link to that person on, I can't remember the blinking podcast, but I'd have to go through and have a look at my list and have a look at that. But that's definitely somebody Shawn Ryan should interview, I reckon. There'd be some cool experiences, not only background, upbringing, drive for him to want to do those things, but operationally wise, that'd be awesome to hear. If people know about, if people have got a link to who that person is recently and you want to send it through, feel free to send it through. Otherwise, I might have to do a search for that fella after this.
But I think there's been a few other guys from the SEAL community that have done it over the years.
Yeah. Is anybody that you know of switched the other side?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Yeah. And I don't even know.
Happy over there. Huh?
I don't even know how you would do it. You know, I mean, like, there's a mechanism on the unit side to do that. I don't know that there's a mechanism to go the other way.
Interesting.
But you know, and that relationship ebbs and flows over time.
Yeah.
We were like this for a bunch of years, and then the exchange between the two organizations, you know, that Stan McChrystal did in the early 2000s, that improved a lot of things and made both organizations better, and we got along a lot better. So it's a general.
Man, I just think just hearing him say that they were like this for a lot of years or whatever, it's great. I don't know if it's still like that now, but just knowing that you've got such high level units like development group, like CAG, in your backyard, it just seems crazy to me that you wouldn't integrate and do more crossovers and joint training, joint tasks, or just like long look exchanges. It's probably the easiest way that I can describe it. When guys from NZ, Australia, UK, they, you know, swap around amongst the SAS units and spend a bit of time over there in each other's countries, embedded in with a squadron and going through the training and all that sort of stuff, and observing, listening, learning, and sharing as well. where appropriate. Like all right, you got two of the most highly regarded SF units in the world, CAG and Development Group, in your own country. Like it just seems like a no-brainer to me anyway, that they, just spend more time, maybe not more time, but spend time, allocated pieces of time to look at how things are being done from the different perspectives to help each other get better. I mean, it can only benefit your defence force overall, but benefit those units and the individuals and stuff within them. And who knows, you may end up on the same battlefield one day and needing to fight together and support one another. And so, yeah, anyway, that's just my thought on it.
Generation of us from that like early 2000s combat era where we're all really good friends.
Yeah.
I don't know about now. Maybe it's gone back to the, fuck those guys. I don't know. But it was a funny evolution for my peer group, at least.
It's a hard case. As I sit here and talk about that, I forgot to mention, obviously in Australia, there's the commando unit, highly regarded 2 commando unit, and SASR. The same thing could likely be said about them, be good. But in terms of them doing more work and stuff together, I think during my time, not that I was involved in the training of TAG East, that was the senior guys from SASR training up guys from 4RAR Commando at the time to take on the Tactical Assault Group East capability. And then from there, I guess that's opened the doorway to a whole bunch of other things. But there have been SASR guys with their background, seriously experienced and skilled guys that have taken senior positions to help develop the capabilities of the commando unit. And so again, I think that in and of itself is almost like a no-brainer. Like you've got this other highly capable unit on the East Coast, and you've got SASR on the West Coast. Maybe not necessarily pooling resources, but pooling knowledge, skills, experience, competency for as far as training and exercises and development and all that sort of stuff goes, of team and units capability, but individual skill sets and stuff as well, I think has got to be a good thing in the long run. Not only from the perspective, they might identify some commando guys that want to go over to SASR, and vice versa. There might be some guys that are in SASR that might go, actually, I like what the commandos are doing now. I like the sledgehammer approach and the sort of tasks and missions and jobs that they will be on, and I think I'd rather go and do that for a period of time or whatever, just I can't imagine people that are in the SAS would want to voluntarily change and go to the commandos, but it could happen. And I think there'll always be that competitive nature between the units and that rivalry.
So back to your own experience, you get in, you go to C Squadron.
Yeah.
What is that environment like?
Super fast.
Is it welcoming?
Nobody was there. So C Squadron was deployed to Afghanistan when I crossed the hall, as they say. So the initial stuff happened right after 9/11. That was a different squadron that did Gecko and all those early incursions into Afghanistan. The next rotation, C took over for them. So in the spring of 2002, the squadron I got assigned to deployed. So when I finished OTC and went to C Squadron, I didn't even go to Halo School then. Part of the pipeline was after OTC. If you hadn't been, you went to Halo School and some advanced demolition stuff. And I didn't even do those because I got to Squadron. They basically in-processed us. There was a skeleton crew left there. They equipped us. And then in less than 2 weeks, I was on a plane headed to Afghanistan.
Oh, so you met them?
Met my
overseas.
team in combat. Yep.
Shit.
Straight up.
Holy heck. I like the questions that Shawn said. Maybe Chris is going to get into it. Were they welcoming? What was it like? He said it was super fast. Like that sounds, now it's making sense. When he says, oh, nobody was there, I was initially thinking, how could it be super fast if nobody's there? Because I was going to say, when he said super fast initially, I was like, yeah, 100%, it's super fast. Well, it feels that way because the guys are into their, like in the squadron life, they've already got their routine and rhythm. They're used to it and what happens each day, coming in, check in, off, do PT, get cleaned up, come back, draw weapons, do this, do that, get all your briefings, prep, get the demolitions or explosives, go to the different parts of the area in which you've got booked and organized, whether that's the ranges, whether that's the kill house, whether that's doing stuff off the towers and that sort of thing, whether that's traveling to another part of the training area up north, or whatever it might be, whether it's parachuting, whether it's on the boats or out in the water. Like there's just the flow and the rhythm of the work that the squadron that you're going into, the troop that you're a part of in the squadron that you're going into is just used to, and things are just firing off. But hearing this guy, meeting his squadron in country, in a war zone, on operations, holy heck, that I assume obviously the training and stuff and preparation would have set him up really well for what he's about to step into. But again, I'll be interested to hear what he says, because I'm sure that's just another level again of speed, of needing to assimilate the information as quickly as you can and being able to apply it as effectively, as accurately, as professionally as you can in that environment now on operations, where you've got guys that are on operations that have likely served and been on operations with each other before, and now you've got this new guy, or these new guys coming in, and they don't know you. They don't know if they can trust you. They would want to. There would be a level of respect from them, a small level of respect from them to and for the individuals, just based on the fact that you've passed the selection and cycle, however their process works, to get to where you are. But there'd probably also still be some apprehension, and rightly so. At the same time, depending on the briefings that they likely would have got, they probably would have got a heads up on who they're getting. You're getting these guys, that may help quell some of the concerns or anxiety that they may have about the new guys coming in as well. But I don't know how their process works. I'm just spitballing and guessing there.
Out of school.
How that could be, yeah, that could be tough. They could be either very welcoming because they need you, or they could be, who the fuck is this guy showing up mid-deployment? How was it?
Mixed bag.
Yeah.
The team, fantastic. The team was great. And I think they were all adult enough, experienced enough, and smart enough to know that tonight this guy could be on our left or our right. So it behooves us to be accepting, get him up to speed anywhere that he's not, make sure he's equipped properly, et cetera, et cetera. So the team that I went to was very welcoming. All of them are still longtime friends to this day. Like, they were just really, really good dudes. The troop, so expanding out a little bit. Yeah, sure, there's some practical jokes and some things that occur. And like, who is this guy? But at the end of the day, it was minimal. And I think it was because they were at war. Like, they were forward deployed and, okay, you're part of this. Let's go. We don't know when.
I love that, what he shared there. I could imagine that there'd be a bit of a mixed bag, but I could imagine also that it would be majority, not necessarily like welcoming or come in, buddy, wrap the arms around you and all that sort of thing. But an understanding, I guess, is probably a thought that comes to mind for me, that there's a strong understanding, like he just mentioned and explained really well. The guys knowing this guy could be on our left or on our right, or could be right in the middle, or could be leading the charge, or could be the last line of defense. Who knows? But the maturity that obviously guys in Delta Force will have had and will have, and I think the same in any of those types of units, would be second to none. And just that understanding that this is for real and we're on operations, and this isn't a time to try to make one of the newer guys. It's not his fault. It's not the new guy's fault that they've come in at this time. It is what it is. He's met the requirements to be here. He's proven himself to be a good operator, or a good egg, some people might say, or a good CUNT. So if you're a good C in that category, then generally, you're good to go and you'll be accepted. If you're a SHIT CUNT, well, then you shouldn't be there in the first place. But there's an understanding, professional understanding that you're here. It's not your fault in terms of the timing of it. Yeah, sure, we would have loved, the team, the troop would have loved, the squadron would have loved to have eyeballed you a lot more once they see you in the squadron life and doing the things that need to be done at the rapid and high level in which they need to be done. But we don't have that. This is the way, this is how the cookie is crumbled, so to speak, and we're here now, so it's time to get amongst it. But anyway, that's my take on this reaction. I've enjoyed this. I don't know how much I actually got through in terms of from where I started it, but yeah, I'll crack on and make sure that I get this one finished. I think he's got a 2 or 3 part series, this guy, and this is still only part 1. So anyway, appreciate you sticking around and stopping by. Thank you for your time and support as always, and I'll see you on the next one.